AI Impact Hour, and I hope it will be impactful for you. It's always impactful for me, and I'm the host, but I still learn from everybody that's here. If you're looking on the screen and wondering who all these beautiful faces are, they are your peers. They are panelists who said yes when we put out the invite to say, do you want to be a panelist? So you can share your experience with AI. They were the ones that said yes. So if you see the next AI Impact Hour registration page and you see a little link that says, would you like to be a panelist? Share, say yes and come on and share because people learn from each other. We learn from each other and we grow. That's what this community is for. I'm gonna get ready to, by the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Aretha Simons. If you've never been on our webinars, I'm Aretha Simons. I'm the webinar producer here. I'm also an AI enthusiast, so good to be here. But we always do the AI Impact Hour with a guest panelist, again, who is a peer in the nonprofit community, who will share for 10, 15 minutes or however long it takes. Feel free to ask some questions while they're presenting, and then we'll open it up for questions. Hopefully, you will have lots of questions, and you'll hear from my other panelists who will share their experience using AI, good, bad, ugly. It's all here to make an impact on you. So I'm going to move out of the way and turn this over to Remy. But before I do, Remy was on our first AI Impact Hour in January. And immediately I was like, I need to have him teach. And this is just a glimpse of the power of the information that Remy is going to share. We're going to have him come back and do a full webinar. You just wait, just hold on, hold on, hold on. But I'm going to turn him loose and let him share with you. Be surprised. I'm going to let him tell you what the topic is. I know what it is, but I'm going to let you be surprised. So, Remy, over to you. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Aretha. It's great to be here. Always love sharing a room with you and all these other great panelists. And for everyone who's calling in, thank you for taking the time. I know your time is valuable, so we're going to try to jam pack it with as much value as possible. So let me share my screen and you can let me know if you can see it. All right. Everyone see that? Can I get a thumbs up from one of my panelists, fellow panelists? Okay, perfect. All right. So we are talking today. I had a couple of options for us, but we're going to talk about skills in large language models. And I'm going to define what this is in just a moment. I want to just very briefly introduce myself so you know who's talking at you right now. My name is Remy Rea. I'm Director of AI and Thought Leadership at Compass Pro Bono. I've done a lot of work with AI over the last few years, including some formal training in AI and change management. But most importantly, I've spent much time, many dozens of hours working with individual nonprofit staff and leaders on figuring out how AI fits into their roles. And I work full time at a nonprofit and have moved my team through this moment in time, and it is challenging work. So I just want to validate for anyone who's on the call who's struggling to figure out exactly where AI fits in or how it fits in or how to move your team through this moment, take a breath because it is a lot. And I hope that this can be some small pocket of helpful for you, but we've designed a lot of other resources, which I'll nod to at the end that maybe hopefully can help you move along this journey. These are a couple of tools that we use a lot at Compass Pro Bono, my organization. We use a variety of different large language models, but I find that most people are just kind of scratching the surface when it comes to the vast range of AI tools that are out there. So I encourage you to check these out. There are AI meeting note takers, some that don't have bots. There are LLMs that are designed specifically for functions like research. This is one called Perplexity. Happenstance is a networking platform that uses AI to sort of help use natural language to search across your contacts. And Whisperflow, I'm actually going to use in our demo today because it allows me to move much more quickly in demos. I basically hold down a key on my laptop, I say what I want to say out loud, and it auto transcribes it fully formatted into whatever text box I have highlighted. So I'm going to jump right into what the content of this micro demo is. We're going to be talking about skills. And I've taken some screenshots here of where these live in different large language models. You can see Claude, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. There are a bunch of different language models out there, but most people are using one of these or Gemini or Copilot, and most language models in that category have some version of skills. Not all of them. Unfortunately, Gemini does not yet, but it likely will soon. With most of these tools, it is just a matter of time. So skills let you teach a large language model how to perform a specific workflow that you engage in often. All right. They also can be shared between large language models, which gives a lot of value if you're using multiple different tools for different functions. And they usually live in your large language models settings. So I'm going to go into a language model or a couple, and we're going to actually do some demos so you can see what I mean by this. So I've got open Claude, ChatGPT, and Perplexity right here. You should all be familiar if you're using AI tools already with this interface, right? This sort of blank page chat box that's staring at us, asking what we're going to do next, right? And typically what I would do if I go into one of these tools is I would ask it for help on a particular task, right? So I've prepped a couple of examples of what we might do here. Um, I'm writing a short internal memo for Compass Pro Bono, that's my organization, about whether we should start using AI note-taking tools for client discovery calls. I want Claude, which is my language model of choice right now, to summarize the main benefits, risks, and legal or privacy considerations. I wanted to include 2 or 3 specific tool examples and mention any current consent rules in each of our locations and end with a recommendation. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm not going to turn on thinking, but if you haven't tried thinking, you should try it out. It basically allows the model to iteratively assess its own process, and it lets you see a little bit inside the model's brain of how it's going through the process of solving your problem. But for the time being, we're just going to send it off and see what Claude does. All right. So you can actually already see as it's working, it's reading a skill. All right. And we're going to talk about what that is and how to build one in just a moment. But you may not already realize that, or you may not have realized that your language model is likely already using skills. So again, skills teach the language model how to execute a specific workflow or how to do a specific kind of task. So right now it's creating this memo as a Word document, and it has a skill for creating Word documents in particular. Okay. Once it's done with this, we're basically going to ask it to double check its work, and we're going to turn that double checking into a skill so that in the future, I don't have to ask it from scratch. All I have to do is use a shortcut, and it's going to execute that process. All right. So while it's doing this, because it's taking a little longer than expected, I'm going to go over to ChatGPT, and we're going to look at how this might work for another kind of work, and we'll go back and forth between these. So I worked recently with an organization that supports high school students as they look for scholarships to apply to universities. All right. And one of the things they do is they look at a list of scholarships that are open, and they assess how the scholarship fits with the profile of the student at hand. All right. So what I might do if I were going to use ChatGPT for this purpose is say, I want you to assess which of the scholarships, which we'll paste below, are the best fit for this scholar. Categorize each opportunity as strong fit, uncertain, or weak fit, and draft a sample message to the scholar for the best opportunity. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to paste in the scholar profile, right? This could look very different for your work, but this is just an example of how we might do this, right? So we're going to give it inputs. Here's our fake scholar profile. We're going to give it a list of scholarships to look at right here. So we've got the First Gen Future Scholarship, we've got the Metro Arts Creative Promise Scholarship, and we've got the Maryland Nurses Foundation Future Nurse Scholarship, okay? And I'm actually going to take this over to Claude because ChatGPT already knows this skill. So we're not going to let it get ahead of us on this. I'm going to send it off. This is the kind of work I might ask Claude to do because it's going to be very good at looking across a large set of data and pulling out specific insights based on this unique profile. So it's doing this. I'll assess each scholarship opportunity against Maya's profile, then draft a message for the best opportunity. Strong fit, Maryland Nurses Foundation, First Gen Futures, and Prince George's Community Service Scholarship. Great. So we have our report here. All right. What I'd like to do in the future is I'd like to be able to more quick, because this is something I'm going to do with every student and every scholarship report every month, right? So I want Claude to be able to execute this skill more quickly in the future. So I'm going to use WhisperFlow. I'm holding down on the function key on my computer. You're going to see it's going to populate the text box with what I'm saying live. All right. So I'm going to use this to add a prompt right now. I'm going to say, great. I do this for different students each month to assess their fit with different scholarships. Can you turn what we just did into a skill so that in the future, I don't have to start from scratch? So because these tools use natural language processing, it's going to detect that what I want it to do is create a skill, which is basically a package of files that allows it to execute a specific workflow. The way I would think about this in your work, I often tell people to think of Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT as interns. Okay. When you bring an intern onto your team, you train them on specific skills, right? Over time, they learn how to execute specific skills. And usually those skills are discrete tasks that you're asking them to execute. So I might have brought on an intern named Claude to help me assess scholarship fit for different students each month. And right now I'm training that intern to execute this skill in the future. And I'll show you how we call on the skill in just a moment. Okay. So you can see it's going to create this file. It's going to package it. And what's going to happen is we are going to get a little bundle of files that we can install to Claude. And in the future, all we have to do is click the shortcut and it's going to do this scholarship fit assessment. All right. So it created this skill called Scholarship Fit Assessor, right? We can click into the sidebar and see what it says. Description: assesses how well a student scholar profile matches a list of scholarship opportunities. When you use the skill whenever a user provides scholar profile and one or more scholarships to evaluate, even if we don't use the word skill or assess, right? So that's one of the things that skills allow is you don't have to trigger it, but we'll show you that in just a moment, all right? And then it's going to break down the steps based on the process we just went through. So Claude is going to start by extracting these fields from the scholar profile. It's then going to assess each scholarship as strong fit, uncertain, or weak fit, right? It's what we trained it to do, but it lives in a package now, so we don't have to retrain it each time. Then it's going to write the assessment and give it a category badge. Is it strong, uncertain, or weak fit, right? So I'm going to save this skill. I can click manage here and you're going to see where this lives. All right. It lives in the settings like we talked about in this thing called skills. And I can see my scholarship fit assessor is right here. So now I might go into a new chat and I might say something like, I have a student whose profile I want to map against scholarship opportunities. Here's the information. Okay. And I'm going to give the student's information. Okay. I'm going to say, I'm actually going to have Claude make up a student profile for us very quickly for this demo. All right. Now, very quickly create a fake student profile and fake scholarship list. We'll just do the student profile. All right. For another demo. If I hit / over here, you can see my skill shows up. The scholarship fit assessor is right here. So this is all I have to do in the future. I no longer have to type from scratch, assess against these opportunities, use these symbols, use these emojis, create this report. It's just going to do that because it now learned that skill from what we did just a moment ago. All right. So we've got a new scholar profile. Okay. Diego, grade 12, high school, public high school, etc. We've got all this information about Diego. Okay. We're going to go back and grab the same list of scholarship opportunities that we used for Maya. And we're just going to have it run this skill, right? So it's now reading the scholarship fit assessor skill, right? This is what we trained it to do. So every time we trigger this skill, it's going to spit out the report in the exact format we asked for. So I can see strong fit, I can see uncertain, I can see weak fit, right? Obviously not a very strong fit for most of Diego's opportunities here, right? The goal is it removes our need to reprompt the tool every single time on a particular task, right? And so I've built these kinds of skills for a bunch of different workflows. If I go into chat, I can show you I've created a check yourself skill, right? So we use this, let me see over here, right here. All right, so we have our AI note-taking tools report that it put together, okay? I'm going to say double check your work to make sure that there are no made up facts and that everything is research grounded. right? This is something I do often with these tools to have them iteratively assess their own output, okay? And what I'm going to do is once it spits out the report about whether it's research grounded, I'm going to turn that into a skill. So in the future, I can just say, check yourself, and it will check its own products, right? The goal here is to shrink the time it takes to get to the output that we want from the language model because so much of what we do day to day is repeat instructions if we're using language models, right? It's the same with interns. We would expect they would internalize how to create an annual report, how to write a social media caption. But large language models need that explicated, right? We want to turn that into a specific bundle of files that make sure they do it the right way. So now, once again, at the end of this process, I'm going to say, great, I often need you to fact check your own work. Please turn that into a skill I can use in the future. All right. And we're going to send it off. And then I'm going to pull this down because I know I want to make lots of time for questions and for the other conversations we're going to have. All right. So it's going to look at its own skill creator skill and it's going to write a fact checker skill that I can call on in the future. Right. So again, there are lots of different kinds of work that we have these tools do. All I've done at the end of my conversation is say, please turn this into a skill so we can do it again in the future, right? It really doesn't add any additional time for me, but it does remove the need for me to start from scratch each time in the future. And it's emphatically not just about speeding up your work. This is about offloading the process from your brain so you don't have to remember it each time, right? If there's a particular way I wanted to go about writing memos or writing social media captions or checking its own work, I can build that into a skill so that each time I do that process, I'm not starting from scratch and hoping that I remember what I needed to do, right? And the last thing I'll say here as it's building this skill, again, these live in the settings typically of your language model. So if I go here, actually, I'm just going to go straight to skills in ChatGPT, right? You can see we've built a bunch of different skills. The skills we've built are for the kinds of work that are replicated, but something changes at the last mile, right? So every time we have a new student, their profile is a little bit different, but we want to go through the same scholarship fit process as we would for other students. So we made a skill out of that. I prep a lot of workshops for nonprofits exploring AI. And so I've built skills so that it can help me put together demos. It can help me tailor my slides for those organizations, right? It can help me go through a workshop debrief. Because I went through that process once. I said, ask me questions to figure out how the workshop went. And at the end of that process, I said, turn this into a skill so that in the future we don't have to start from scratch, right? So the whole goal here is we are no longer, right? We've got this fact check skill, systematically verify the factual accuracy of Claude's own output, right? And now I can go into a new chat and I can just call on my fact checker skill. Oh, we have to download it. Whoops. Save scale to the workspace, right? And now we've got fact checker right here. All right. So I'm going to stop because I know this is a lot, a lot of information. We're running up on time. Say happy to answer questions here. I'll also leave my email and LinkedIn right there, and I'll pop them in the chat if you want to reach out anytime about additional questions. We do this kind of training all the time for nonprofits, but it's a lot to keep in your head. So don't try to keep it all in your head. Reach out, ask questions, and know that wherever you are on this journey, you're in the right place. You don't have to rush or speed up. It's a lot to handle and just take it step by step because we're all learning at the same time here.
Awesome. Amazing. I told you guys we're going to be learning something new today. Did you learn some new skills? Yeah, look at Tom. Tom, that is amazing, Tom. I haven't seen that emoji yet. That is so awesome. You're like the happy faces. So there were lots of questions, and I'm
Yep.
going to jump right to the Q&A, and then I'll go into the chat because there was lots of questions in the chat. The first thing somebody asked, is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. You're going to get the recording either later today or early in the morning. So Patrick asked, can you talk about when would you set up a skill like this versus when you would use a Claude project?
Yeah. It's a very common question now. So skills are a relatively new feature in most large language models. Projects have been around for a while. If you don't know what a project is, it's basically a portion of the workspace that you've cordoned off for a specific kind of work. So I'm just going to show, just to bring it to life really quickly, in Claude. Actually, let's do ChatGPT. On the left here, I can see all of my past chats, right? This is the main place. I can see all my past chats. I can also see projects. And I have projects that are trained to help me with specific functions. Okay. So the difference is a skill is really about a specific task. A project I use, and you can use these not totally interchangeably, but a project is trained on a bunch of past context. So this is my program assistant for my low bono AI workshops and sprints. Okay. I have given it some instructions in the back end. It's my expert AI consultant for nonprofits. It helps me design and execute on infrastructure for our AI consulting program. And I've given it all of the background on our program. It knows our emails. It knows, what our contracts look like. It's seen kind of the menu of programs that we offer. And so when I go into this project, it's starting from all of that context, right? It would be like if I hired a consultant to help me specifically with program administration. But when I hire a consultant or an intern for a specific function, they also still have to execute specific tasks. So tasks
Mhm.
live underneath the level of projects. Projects are like, I have a communications assistant, I have a grant writing assistant, I have a program assistant, right? The skills are what those assistants need to actually execute on day to day. And it's very discrete tasks, right? Fact check the output, or create the slide deck, or create the memo, if that makes sense. So it's kind of two different levels, the functional level and the task level.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jory asked, can you create an updatable file with the scholarship list to call on without copy and paste the whole thing each time?
Yeah. So one of the beauties of skills is that you can actually just ask it in natural language to update the skill. So if I tag the skill in the chat and I say, hey, next time I want you to, do this in this way, right? Uh, don't ask me that question, ask me this question. Or next time you do a scholarship assessment, create an additional section for, uncertain fit part two, and it looks this way, right? You can ask the language model to make those adaptations for you. You don't actually have to go into the back end and change it. And that's how they're built, is you can go and look at all your skills and chat with ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude to have it auto update the skill based on your needs.
Beautiful. Tom, you had several questions in the chat, and since you're here, I'll just let you ask your questions live.
So, Renee, thank you so much for the demo. I'm learning things here. Even though I'm on panel, I'm learning things here as well. In thinking about skills and your use of skills, how do you think about the chunking of them? I think you've sort of talked a little bit to that so far, but yeah, tell us more about what's too big of a
Yeah,
skill, what's maybe
yeah,
too small of a skill.
yeah. So I will share that, and again, this is just easier to see visually. One thing I did last week is I had these workshop prep skills, right? It helps me build demos. It helps me tailor my slides. It helps me find examples of AI use in the industry of the client, right? Like these are things that I have to do every time I build a workshop. And so what I did was I created a meta skill, which is my workshop prep skill, and that launches each of the other skills. Okay. So if you're
Okay.
brand new to skills, you don't need to keep this in your head. But the point is that um, I would build skills at the discrete task level, but you can also build skills at a layer above that, right? So when I go and do a workshop, like there's not a specific answer, right or wrong, for when to use a skill, like what is too big or too small for a skill. I think you'll probably be able to suss that out by actually trying the skill, right? But I would encourage you to look again at the task level versus the project level, right? So every time I prep a deck for a nonprofit that's exploring AI and we're doing an intro workshop for them, I have to come up with examples. I have to go research examples of AI in their industry or their field. So I built an AI industry examples researcher that looks at their website URL, runs a few searches to find peer orgs, practitioners, and then surfaces those options for me to look at, right? So that's a pretty discrete task. Like that ports over to a couple of different slides in my deck. But I made it its own task because I didn't want to overwhelm the language model with like too many asks in one skill. But you're the only one who can figure out what that looks like in your work, right? It might not map exactly to my version of skills, right? And so what I would encourage is start small and then know that you can build a skill that calls on other skills. If you're doing some task, if I'm writing a grant and I have 3 steps in that process, I research the funder, I look at the grant application's eligibility requirements, and I write a first draft. I can build skills for each of those different things, and then I can build a meta skill called write grant application that does each of those different things in tandem, right? But you would want to do it based on how you actually work and what you would actually ask an intern to do, for example, which would be starting with an individual task.
Right.
Nice.
And then how do you manage them through updates? So
You mean, yeah,
you've done a skill. Yeah, it's sort of doing it okay, but it always gets this one thing wrong, or I really
yeah,
wish it would start to do this.
yeah, yeah. So that's where, again, if I go into the chat, right, I have let's say my industry AI example skill. I'm going to try it in chat. Okay. And I can just say, I want to update the industry AI example skill so that it always includes 4 examples of AI in the client industry as opposed to 3. Help me update that skill, right? Sometimes demos go wrong and won't work, but this is how I've used it in the past, right?
He's
So
flying by
it's,
the seat of his pants. We'll see
yeah,
how this
that's
goes.
right.
And
That's right.
it's beautiful.
All
Yeah.
right.
So it should be able to toggle it on its own just based on what I've asked.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you for those questions, Tom. I'm going to combine Kelly and Suzanne's questions because pretty much the same. Kelly says, what privacy concerns are there when pasting in data like student
Yeah.
profiles? And then Susan says, how do you bring in large data files like scholarship lists into AI?
Yeah. So the number one answer, like the bottom line here, is for anything that is not publicly available information, you should be on a paid version of one of these language models. Ideally, the team slash business slash enterprise version. If you're working with particularly sensitive data like PII, like personally identifiable information or health information, you probably need a specific agreement with the vendor, which would be either a data processing agreement or a business associate agreement, right? Like those are things it's not going to apply to everyone, but you know who you are. If your work is that sensitive, you need a specific contract negotiated with OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, okay? As a very baseline, all of us should be using the paid versions of these models because they don't automatically train on the data you put in by default, right? That's a risk with the free versions. And then as far as getting the information in, you have a couple of options, right? You can connect it to your systems. So many of these tools have integrations or connectors with other systems. Our ChatGPT is hooked up to our Google Drive. So I can just have it search our Google Drive for files. I can also download and then upload files to the language model just on my computer. But again, bottom line is like we want to prioritize safety and security. There are some things that should never go in language models, no matter what version of tools you have, right? Like social security numbers, there's never a reason for those to go in language models, right? So err on the side of caution. Also upgrade to the paid version. There are nonprofit discounts for most of these tools. Gemini is free with Google Workspace for nonprofits. Claude is $8 per user per month. You can also license share for a lot of these tools, which my team has done in the past. And so there are ways around that data security concern, but definitely don't be on the free version and err on the side of caution when it comes to particularly sensitive information.
Great point. So, Greg, I really appreciate you giving some feedback to Eileen because that was good feedback. But Eileen said while you were doing your demo and comparing against the sample result, but what if the result isn't what you want?
Yeah. So it won't be, is what I would say. I think much of the work of getting good at using language models is the work of iteration. And so, many people will take the first thing they get from ChatGPT and then sort of throw their hands up and say, well, that's just how AI is. I'm just going to do it myself, right? And I would offer 2 thoughts on this. One is there is a J curve for AI value, meaning usually you have to put in a lot of effort up front and you actually get less productive in the near term, and then you get exponentially more productive with a specific workflow, right? It's just like training an intern. We're going to slow down up front to train them on the process, and then it will allow us to move faster down the line, right? So that's one thing is like expect the J curve, but also there's an element of randomness baked into these tools. And so I encourage you to not give up based on the first thing you get back, right?
Mm.
It takes iteration. But the beauty is that these tools use natural language. So you can give them feedback and they learn from feedback over time. That's one of the reasons for using projects and skills so that you don't have to start from scratch each time, right? If I go through a process and I finally get Gemini or ChatGPT to do the thing I've been asking it to do that it should have gotten 5 hours ago, right? Then I can turn that into a skill so I don't have to redo it in the past, right? I don't have to redo it, sorry, in the future. I don't have to start from scratch each time. So expect iteration. It's part of how these tools work. And also, don't just throw up your hands and think, well, there's no way this can work in an AI tool. We wouldn't do that with an intern. If they gave us an annual report and it was subpar, we wouldn't say that's just how interns are. I'm going to do it myself, right? So give AI tools a little bit of space to breathe on that front as well, and bake in time for iteration as part of any process you try to use AI for.
Awesome. I'm going to come to my other panelists in about 60 seconds. So I'm going to kind of merge these two questions. Somebody said, does telling it not to hallucinate make it not hallucinate? I thought it was
It does not, unfortunately, but here's what I would suggest. You can never undo hallucination. It's just part of how these models work. However, you can give them permission to say when they don't know something. And I have found that to be very impactful, actually. So when I say, go and do this research on, nonprofits that need AI support or nonprofits working on AI, I can also say, don't make up any information in your output report and leave a placeholder if there's something you're uncertain about, or ask me questions up front to get clear on what you don't know, right? I can give it an out. It doesn't eliminate the possibility of hallucination. I still always have to apply my human judgment and fact check and verify and use some of the time I've saved to do that verification work, right? However, I can give it an out if it doesn't know. And I've found that to be very successful, actually. I tell it, don't make something up, put a placeholder where you don't have information because they're optimized for user satisfaction. So they want to make something up to appease you, right? But you have to give them an out.
beautiful. So Remy, I'm going to go to Stacy, but I like for you, Remy, to type the answers in the Q&A for the questions that are in the Q&A. And I really appreciate that. Was a great demo. Lots of questions. Stacy, wasn't that amazing?
Oh,
You
he
know,
did an amazing job, Remy. Great job. Applause, applause.
yes,
I love
yes.
your
Thank
live
you.
presentation.
It
It's
was
great.
awesome. So I got a chance to spend some time with you before we came live and learn a little bit about your organization. I do want to hear about your organization and how you're using AI to make impact in your community and what you do.
So, my background has been in advertising and marketing before I founded Single Parent Advocate. And so, Single Parent Advocate is a nonprofit. We're about the size of an elementary school, and we're based in North Texas. And so, I'm very curious and excited about AI usage in multiple verticals in Single Parent Advocate. And I have been getting certified because I'm just so curious. And so what I do is I help myself write emails and blogs. I definitely use it for research, ideas for events. I believe that I use Perplexity the most, just in case anybody's wondering. I'm kind of codependent on my Perplexity, and I have different peers who are in Claude and ChatGPT, and I can cross-pollinate a lot of times to check myself across multiple tools. And it's really been helping me to get a thumbnail on how single parents across the country are struggling. And maybe they're thinking of things and struggling with things like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day right now. Mother's Day is coming up. And if you're a single mom, that can be a tricky time. And so, what would be most meaningful in looking at different research ideas like that? Um,
Now you
I
said
don't know.
you're
Fundraising and grant writing too, actually.
beautiful. You said your organization like the size of the elementary school. What did you mean by that?
We have about 350 or 400 children and teens, all ages. They've all been in our program. They're nominated by schools, churches, other nonprofits and business associations to join our community when they are seen as falling through a gap of some kind. So we've got feet on the street here in Dallas and in North Texas, and then we have an online outreach, largely on Facebook. So if you or your organization has single parents that would like to get an encouraging word, one of my friends that I used to work with at the Dallas Morning News, she publishes all these good thoughts every day. And she keeps me going some days too, honestly, Aretha.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. Thank you for what you do. And single parenting. Okay. I
Oh
know that.
yeah, if you think about being a single mom or a single dad, or there are many grandparents raising their grandkids alone that get nominated. We had someone pass away who was a military veteran with three teenagers, and their mom was not involved in their lives. And so his mother inherited raising these three kiddos. And so we stand beside her, and then, like a single dad raising quadruplets because his wife died in childbirth. And these situations, I always talk about death, divorce, disease, disability, tough decisions, and disasters that come along and derail families. And so when I think about AI making me better, faster, stronger, and more impactful as a person who cares, what can I say? What can I do that, please act as a PhD counselor, please act as a grandmother, or, help me to be more than what I've been exposed to as I reach into the lives of these families who have really gone through some terrible form of loss.
Wow. And wow, and wow, and wow. Let's get some heart emojis in the chat for that because I know you felt it. I know you felt it. Thank you for sharing. Hi, Jean. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I met you a little earlier too. Actually, we met at the latter end, but tell us about your nonprofit and how you're using AI to make an impact in your community.
I have a tiny not-for-profit. We do our primary business is creating dance videos, preserving monumental or foundational dance techniques. We just finished the Martha Graham technique, and we're also now starting on a film. And what was great with AI is my partner had been trying to get this pitch deck together, and for months she just couldn't get off the starting block. And then I just fed the information about our protagonist into AI, and it started, and it created our beginnings of a pitch deck for us. And within about 3 days, what she couldn't get done in months, we were able to create the pitch deck in about 3 days with distribution possibilities and demographics and just information that we would have had to do major research for. So it was just a real phenomenal help that we just couldn't get done by ourselves. It was just really difficult. And I tried to do visuals on it, but it was too slow for that. So I did the visuals on PowerPoint and then added the information into PowerPoint. So maybe now it would be quicker and would be possible, but at that point it wasn't. And then another thing that I've done, which was really helpful, is my partner wanted me to apply for a Bessie Award. And I kept saying, well, tell me what we need to do. And she just really couldn't give me good information. So I just went online to ChatGPT and I said, if I want to apply or if I want to get a Bessie Award, what do I need to do? Or what do I have to apply or submit? And it was fabulous. It just said, this is what is required, how you need to have other people support you. It just gave the whole rundown of what was required. And it also laid out an action plan and a timetable, because it would say, because that's what's great about, I mean, I'm sure all these language models, but with ChatGPT, okay, I did this for you. Would you like me to do a time frame? Would you like me to get a strategy for you? I was like, sure, give me a strategy, give me a timetable. So that was really great. Laid out a whole timetable for us to use the strategy for, getting a Bessie Award. Another thing that was really helpful is we're in this film that we're doing, we're having interviews and we don't have a lot of B-roll, to cut away to for the interview. And I asked GPT, I said, could you just draw me a little pencil sketch of a little boy sitting at a bus stop at night? It was just because it was a shot that would have been in the film. And very quickly it had this diagram that was just fabulous. And I went, this is really great. We'll be able to actually have ChatGPT or one of these models create little graphics for us that we can intercut with the interview that will save us a lot of money and yet give us things to cut away to that'll just enhance the film. So those are probably three main things. Plus, as you said, Stacy, helping with grant writing. We did a series of welcome emails, which we've used AI for. Also for agendas for meetings, we feed in what we want to accomplish in the meeting and ask for it to give us an agenda, in PowerPoint slides.
Nice. Now, I want to go to Tom, but I want to find
Yeah.
out what kind of dance you do. Is it modern dance? What kind of dance? Because you
Well,
mentioned,
we documented the Lester Horton technique, which is the foundational technique of the Alvin Ailey Company, and we just finished the Martha Graham technique. It's not a documentary; it's the technique. It's documenting the technique. It's recording all the exercises and combinations of the levels of the technique for
that's
preserving
incredible.
the technique. So,
I love that. That's incredible. I hope you come back and share it with us when you finish it. That's
well,
incredible.
we just finished. We just finished the Graham. So,
Do
literally
you have a
just finished.
do you have a video to it so we can see it?
Well, not right here. I mean, I've been
You have on
taking.
YouTube? On YouTube?
Now, this is there's a trailer on YouTube. You could go to probably Martha Graham technique videos and you should be able to see a trailer for beginning or intermediate or advanced. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a second to find it and pop it in the chat so we can all see it. Take your
Okay.
time. Take your time. Yeah, take your time.
It's let me see. I'll try to do it before we go. So
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, Tom Brown. How,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm well.
Tom, when I heard the number of students that you help, my mind was blown away. I actually had you repeat the number. So can you tell us how many students that you help? And it may not be like this year, but overall, your organization, this number of students that you're at least working with.
So I work with the Aspire Institute. We work with first generation college students from 190 countries around the world. The process for each of the students starts with an initial application to evaluate qualification. Last year, we had 250,000 of those initial applications come in. This is up from in 2022, we had about 16,000. And one of the things that we learned in 16 was that we were having to constrain our ability to offer uh, participation in our programs to our participants because we just didn't have enough reviewers to go look at these things. And we started our AI journey before large language models with more traditional approaches to help us work through those applications. And our goal for next year is 1 million. Our goal for this year is 500,000. We're doing the double, double, double thing. And only would be possible by using AI techniques at scale, as opposed to sort of individual enhancement, which we do a lot of with our team as well. But the interesting and different thing is just sort of the production use.
I love it. And we're going to manifest that million. We're going to send some good energy your way and make sure you guys manifest that. And you said the most impactful thing, which is why we're here, learning how AI can make an impact. You're going to use AI to make sure you get to that million. And it's going to help you work, as Stacey
So
said, smarter, faster.
it wouldn't be possible for us to review. We do not have enough staff people to look at 1 million initial applications in a year. If we had everybody all day long just looking at initial applications, we couldn't look at that amount. That's the thing that's sort of different and why AI is important to the work that we do.
Wow, incredible. You guys see the community that we have here. Jean, I know you thought, oh, I have to find that video, but as soon as I mentioned find the video, somebody says, hey, we're this what Carla said, I'm the CEO of Kansas City Friends of Alvin Ailey. I love to see the video. So this is definitely community here. And I appreciate all of you for being here, for coming on. I want to remind you, this is being recorded. You will get the recording. I'm going before we get ready to leave. I want to thank Remy for an awesome job. Yes, 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 yes. Amazing. There were so many things. Even I learned that. I was like, I can do that. I can do that. So that was incredible. Again, I would love for you to come back and do a full demo on, probably this and more. I know you have so much more. I would love for our panelists to put in the chat how people can reach out to you. Look at the hearts and the hand claps going up. How people can reach out to you individually. Because Jean, guess what? You have a friend in Kansas City right now that wants to connect with you, the CEO of a nonprofit. Tom, we want to help you get to that million. How can we volunteer to, work with you to use AI to help you get to that million. So please put your information in the chat. And guys, behind the scenes, I have people here from TechSoup that help me out on the chat. I know Lashika Phillips, she's not on camera, but she is here. I want to thank you for being here. But before I go, or let my panelists go, I want to have you all say some closing remarks to inspire someone who may be afraid, who may be using AI, but not to its full, extent, or just something that will encourage a nonprofit who is here today. And I will start with you, Tom, since you're still on the screen. I mean, yes, Tom.
That's fine. The thing that I will share with the folks that are here is that we are all on this AI journey. And we've actually been on this journey for a number of years now. We think about sort of when ChatGPT was first available in late 2022 as the beginning, but all of us were using text to speech, speech to text. Our applications were being looked at by large corporations. But as nonprofits, the possibility to scale down to our sort of budgets and capabilities has become more and more possible. And so there are sort of two areas as you're thinking about AI. How can I use it to make me as an individual more productive? And how can I transform processes that we do as an organization to be more scalable and productive? And by productive, I mean able to target all of the folks that we work with more individually rather than just everybody gets the sort of same blanket kinds of treatment, because those are some of the things that we can do with the new capabilities that we've got out there. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Jean.
I guess as parting words, I would say, don't be afraid. If you ever have any question or if you don't know how to do something, just ask ChatGPT or ask one of the large language models, like, how do I find this? Or how should I go about doing this? And it's just a way to get started, and it's just very interesting. I had a technical problem and I didn't know what to do. And I just asked ChatGPT, and I had a problem with a video monitor. And I said, why does this keep blinking? And I just asked ChatGPT, and he said, well, these are the possible solutions. So it's just interesting. If you just start. If you're shy about it, I would just say, just start, ask it a question, and you'll find how easy it is, I think.
I agree. Stacy?
Well, sure. I would just say, remember that you are the human in the loop,
Yeah.
right? And these are not designed to work without you. A lot of people have asked me, hey, how do you know it's correct? How do you know? How can you trust the feedback and the output that you have here? And so, as you're developing policies and procedures, first of all, that's step one, is to develop a policy for each way that you use an LLM. But also just know that you need a person with education and skills to attach to each of those policies or each of those applications. And so I think that was the biggest lesson I've learned is, and then the second biggest thing I would say is, don't be afraid to learn out loud. We all have to continue to grow and change, and we're all on different parts of the bell curve. But learning out loud and being a lifelong learner is where it's at for me. And I hope that will be the place where you can start more easily too.
Beautiful, beautiful. And finally, last but not least, Remy, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let you close us out and we'll end this session.
Sure thing. Well, I think I just got to the end of all of the questions in the chat and Q&A, so hopefully those have been helpful for folks. I'll reiterate something I shared earlier and just reinforce what my fellow panelists have said, which is that this is a noisy time. It can be a scary and challenging time because it feels like AI is all around us and we're not totally sure how it's going to impact our work or our people. For those of you who are at the early stages of this journey, I'd really encourage you to just lean into the conversation, and don't get swept up in the hype because none of us make good decisions from a place of anxiety, right? All of the things that we build to last take time, right? And that includes the AI solutions that we build in collaboration with people on our teams. So I put in the chat a little while ago, and I'll put it again right now. My organization has a bunch of free resources on AI. It's like completely free webinars, decks, frameworks, and tools. We are a nonprofit. We do this for nonprofits all the time. I hope you'll use those, and it can be helpful in some small way. But there are many, many resources out there in the ecosystem from TechSoup and N10 and Independent Sector and other organizations. And so in many cases, as others have said, it's just a matter of making the time to get started. And I really encourage you all to trust in your own expertise, because your expertise in the work you do is what's really going to lead to value from these tools. The tools cannot replace your expertise, right? But they may be able to augment the expertise that you have in mission advancing ways if we can get exceptionally crystal clear on what that augmentative value is up front. So that's what I'll say to close. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Aretha, I really appreciate you bringing us together. It's such a meaningful and important space. And I hope folks will reach out with questions they have.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month. Make sure you sign up to be a panelist. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.